Two.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Cunningham. I'm the Executive Director of the Village Preservation Society of East Hampton, and I welcome you to our Town Board Candidates Debates. Each election cycle, the Village Preservation Society welcomes the Town Board candidates and supervisor candidates to discuss issues of concern and give the public a general idea of what they will be looking at when they go into the voting box on November 7th. The Village Preservation Society is a local not-for-profit, the mission of which is to preserve historic structures, preserve quality of life and neighborhood character in the village of East Hampton. We're going to go through this in a round robin. We have the first two candidates, Tom Flight, who's the Democrat, and Michael Wootton, who's the Republican candidate, and then we'll swap everybody out so they get a chance to see each other. We're going to start with a 1-minute opening statement from each of the candidates, and then we'll begin our questioning. Okay, Tom.
Kathy, thank you. Thank you for hosting me. Michael, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you to the Village Improvement Society as well. So, it's going to be evident from my voice. I'm not originally from East Hampton Town. I'm not originally from the US. I was born in India and I grew up in London. In 1999, I had the great fortune to meet my now wife, Georgia Biondo Flight, and we lived in Scotland for 4 years before work took me to the US. I had a successful corporate career, starting with Gap, working in San Francisco, doing a lot of market research and financial analysis for them. Then on to Walmart, where I was head of finance for their billion-dollar new concept format. Following that, I went to Ann Taylor, where I was head of finance, internet, and outlet and credit card businesses. Then in about 2009, I had the opportunity to come to Montauk, where I've built my life. I'm a fireman out here. I'm a dad of 3 kids. My wife is a high school English teacher. I'm about the community of Montauk.
Great, thanks. Sorry, it goes quick, doesn't it?
Yes,
That 1
sorry.
minute, it
Yeah,
goes really
sorry.
goes
Slightly lost
fast.
track of time.
That's
A lot to say.
Okay, ready, Michael?
Sure.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Wootton. I may be a newcomer to local politics, but I've been an active member of our community for over 25 years. I wanted to get into local politics to preserve that community. I'm elder at the Bridgehampton Presbyterian Church and currently serve as the treasurer. I've done that for 10 years. I'm an ocean lifeguard and first responder for East Hampton Ocean Rescue. As a lifeguard, triathlete, and lover of ocean, I'm passionate about local issues such as open space, overdevelopment, and quality of life. In my professional career at Bank of New York, I traded currencies in the foreign exchange market and advised multinational corporations on how to best mitigate currency risk. I believe the key to my success is my ability to establish credibility and trust, both with clients and my colleagues. I hope to bring credibility and trust back to the town board. I decided to run because I wanted to break the hegemony of the Democratic Party and open up a new path for the town board. A path crave with credibility and trust, a path that leads to solutions that benefits all.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to start with Tom on this first question. Please define civility in public discourse.
It's a wonderful question. There's one thing I think we all love, it's good manners. I recently did a project with a high school intern, actually with LTV, and we had a lot of back and forth discussion. It was about water quality. And we had differing opinions here and there, and the one message I kind of left with him is that good manners are everything. How you treat the people in your community, how you communicate with them, honesty, integrity, standing behind your word. It's of vital importance. If we don't stand for that, then who are we? I think discourse in government has grown away from civility. I think we see it in Washington. We see it at Suffolk County, certainly. We don't see it in East Hampton Town. I really have to admire about the board. I don't know if everyone watched the zoning meeting yesterday, but the civility of the population in general and of the board was excellent. I think that it's critical that we all maintain civility when discussing our present and future.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with all those comments he made. Civility is, I guess, very, very important. Unfortunately, I think we've lost a lot of civility in the national debate, unfortunately. And I blame pretty much the idea of our media. It seems like human beings are complex, and therefore they're their problems are complex and they don't necessarily lend themselves to black and white sound bites. One thing I learned during COVID, I think, was actually the civility of our population here in East Hampton. Everybody came together and I was really quite impressed with our first responders on the line of the public health system, which is was very refreshing. And I think our neighbors all came together in general. So obviously it's of great importance, and I too was at the meeting yesterday afternoon at the town board discussing Chapter 255, and everybody was very respectful, and it was a great public debate about an important issue.
Great. Okay. Well, that worked out well time-wise. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give you the next question
Sure.
first. We'll swap it out like that, okay? Okay, so Michael, what is your vision for East Hampton? And how will you support your goals for the community?
That's a great question. I am an optimist, but I'm also pragmatic and a realist. I think we're blessed with natural surroundings, great people. However, our town and its character, its culture, and its heritage, and its young people are being threatened by what I call overdevelopment. We're just about max build out, and there's virtually no more place to build. I think the issue of overdevelopment is so intertwined with other problems we face, problems of water quality, affordable housing, and traffic congestion. I guess a prime example of this is looking at our volunteer fire departments. I think they're at all-time lows. I mean, not about all-time lows, but at decade lows of membership, despite the fact that we've had growth of like 30% in our population of the last decade. There's no way for people to live here, but there's no silver bullet to solve these problems. The good news is, I do believe, is that the county board is examining the issues of the incongruity between the 2005 comprehensive plan and the zoning So yesterday was our good first step of discussing. Well, the minute goes by fast.
Yeah, it does. You can
Excuse
finish
me.
your sentence.
Finish your sentence, go ahead, please.
Or just said that with regards to Chapter 255, I think it was a good first step. And I wanted to also applaud the efforts of Jane Meering, of her grassroots efforts and her organization Building Kind. I don't believe that the Chapter 255 meeting would have taken place last night or yesterday afternoon without her
Okay,
energy.
great, thanks. Okay. Tom,
Thank you for
same
No
question.
problem.
Thank you for allowing me that time.
I agree with a lot of what Michael said here. It has become harder for people to live out here. There's a range of reasons that are driving that. Property prices being one, housing being absolutely critical. There is nothing constant in life except change. So the question is what sort of vision do we have to work towards? And you could look inwardly on that and see what's strong about the community we live in and what it is we have to preserve. And yes, that is where you're talking about our firehouses, our first responders, our amazing schools, our environment. But then you have to look to the future too and say, how are we going to get there? How are people going to be able to live in this community and buy a home or find housing? So I think Kathy, David, and Peter, and the board and Kate have done a great job with the All Hands on Housing project to start to deliver that. I think we need to go much further. We're right now having a look at our zoning code, and there need to be really honest conversations within that as to how will people live here? ADUs are a great example of this. It's something that I myself have done to enable my in-laws to live with me. I think that working towards being an environmental tourism capital of the world is something we should look to do, and helping to bring new business and helping existing businesses thrive out here is critical as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Without any, no.
Did you have something
No,
specific
I'm
you
good.
wanted to rebut? I mean, if there's something you feel strongly about, you can.
No.
Okay. Okay, the next question, I'll start with Tom. Contractors parking on the shoulder of the road create congestion and kill roadside plantings all around town, making life very difficult for neighbors, sometimes for months or years till the construction is complete. What is your solution to this problem?
This is a really good question. So I'll put it forward. Thank you. All right, I have two sides to this very quickly. One is I went through a recent home renovation where I had to have contractors park on the side of my road of my house because that's the only way you can do a building project out here. I'm the owner of that property, however, And how it looks following my building project is on me. If I have damaged the local environment, then I need to replenish it. How my home looks generally, how I keep my home, that's on me as a homeowner. So, my view on this is simple, is that, okay, if you have a building permit, we can understand that maybe you're gonna have to have parking on the side of the road here and there. Ideally, it's not gonna happen there. It's gonna be in a driveway, an off-site location, but there will be occasions when a delivery is coming and nothing else can happen. We have to have that flexibility. However, when you get to the end of a project, you as the homeowner, part of your permitting process should be restoration of that environment to an equal or better standard than it was prior to the beginning of your construction project.
Well, that came in just on time. I didn't have to hit that bell again. Okay, Michael.
I think you're talking about, I think the question, can you repeat the question just briefly for me?
Yeah, sure. Contractors parking on the road, shoulder of the road, could create congestion and kill roadside plantings all around town, making life very difficult for the neighbors, sometimes for months or years till the construction is completed. What's your solution to that problem?
My experience is not so much the contractors, but mostly a lot of the maintenance landscaping crews. I would think that that is a problem. But again, I guess the first question was talking about civility in the public discourse. I think we have to be civil with our neighbors and somewhat understanding and trying to allow for them to park there. Or have them park in your driveway, first off. Also, something of concern is obviously those blowers, those leaf blowers. Even though I think the town has outlawed the leaf blowers, I still think a lot of the gas-powered leaf blowers still go on for maintenance of private properties. So maybe to try to tackle that problem. The noise of those leaf blowers is quite incessant. I do give the town high marks for at least taking care of being the leaf blowers being utilized on the town property. But again, I guess it has to be a neighborly discourse to take care of your own property.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. That came in under time too. That's good. Okay. Most people do not realize that affordable housing units built with county, state, or federal funds cannot legally give priority to folks who already live here, much less prioritize high-need local residents in essential positions such as teachers or first responders. How do you propose the town board can gain better control over who actually benefits from affordable housing projects? The addition of new affordable housing units can have the undesired effect of increasing the population size further, which doesn't help locals who are being priced out.
Well, this is, I guess the concept, the whole idea of affordable housing is a very, very complex issue. I did look on the website from of the Democrats platform, and they mentioned they were sort of bragging the fact that they've been able to create, I guess, 443 units over the past 43 years since they've had the Democratic control of the board. And that seems like a drop in the bucket. That's 443 over a course of 43 years is not enough. I think it was actually 472, excuse me. And that's just not enough. The issue of trying to allocate affordable housing is, I guess, done primarily on income and a lottery basis, but still the demand far outstrips the supply. And I guess one thing that I just noticed in the town budget was they increased salaries for town employees, but still it's not enough to retain those employees. As I understand, town employees are still priced 30 to 35% less than its ongoing market for private companies, as well as adjacent townships, excuse me.
Okay. All right, Tom.
I think that the answer is you have to do it from multiple ways. I mean, the building of affordable housing, the projects on 3 Mile Road, the Larry Campbell development taking place, they're all darts we're throwing at this. We have to approach this from every aspect. ADUs I've talked about briefly. They are a great policy by which we can kind of start to bring in housing for those people that we can't get through state sponsored funds. Those laws are there for a reason from the state. They have justification over that. It's not our remit. We take the money. We have to operate by that. It's the same with the school. So multiple approaches to addressing the housing crisis are key. I mean, that's why they have the All Hands on Housing project. It's diverse. We have to look for new opportunities to build new housing where we can get it with or without state funds. Michael hits on another good point too, which is that we also have to have a really honest conversation about how we're paying our civil service employees. I can tell you as a member of the school board, the 2% cap is very challenging when you see inflation at, double digits for multiple years. So wages have to be a massive discussion how we do this.
Okay, great.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all like the idea of ADUs, accessory dwelling units. But again, one factor limiting ADUs is our septic situation. If you have let's say I happen to have a 3-bedroom house, it has 2 bathrooms, but if I wanted to add ADU, I'd have to reassess the septic system.
May I just quickly
Yeah,
comment on
sure.
that?
Yeah.
I see that as an opportunity. I don't know what sort of septic system you're on, but if you're not on an IA system, that I kind of went through this. And, the first thing I had to do was to replace my septic system with an IA, which had environmental advantages. So yes, every ADU built by the new town law would have to have an IA system. So you might actually see some potential benefit to our water quality from that.
Okay, I'm going to segue into a question that I think might follow up on this. And I'm going to start with you on this one, Tom. How will you ensure that we have clean, safe drinking water? And how will you ensure that our surfaced water bodies, so essential to our fisheries and our way of life here, are safe and can thrive?
It's a 2-minute question?
Well-
Wow. Goodness me. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, the water bodies. I mean, what they're under threat from. In many ways, it's the same thing. It's often nitrogen and phosphorus, and you have to look at the source. We've mentioned septic, so I'm going to move on from that one slightly. There has been discussion about wastewater treatment facilities. What is the environmental benefit impact cost with that? Is it worth taking alienated parkland to do that? No, it's bluntly not. But we do have to find better ways to treat our wastewater. We're going to have to look for technology to do that. I know other countries have innovative systems where you can have on an individual basis recycled grey water. I think that's something I would love to look at. It's something where we need technology to lead us with that one. With regards to water bodies generally, I can tell you can go up to the freshest ponds that have no human impact in East Hampton Town. And they are seeing environmental issues, algae growing on them. This is not because of pollutants. This is because of climate change. And we have to be leaders on that front as well to protect our water bodies. Warming oceans, warming water bodies will see algal blooms and bacteria growth, and that will damage our economy.
Well, you did it. Okay, Michael.
Yeah, water quality is essential for life. I mean, it's obviously so important. And I guess I read an article recently in it that mentioned that Long Island, not only East Hampton, but Long Island as a whole, has had the worst water quality and I guess ever. Just recently, on the morning of our debate in Montauk, there was a triathlon scheduled. And for those who don't know, I am a triathlete, but the triathlon encompasses 3 events: swim, bike, and run. And remarkably, due to all those rains last weekend, the swim portion of the race was canceled 48 hours ahead of time of the race. So obviously that was disappointing for the participants, but I guess it's more telling about how just a torrential rainpour can create toxicity due to algae blooms, et cetera, just from the rainstorm. So maybe one little first step is maybe we could perhaps install so-called bioswales for our storm drains. Maybe one first step to help with this problem. But it is a major problem. Again, I'll have to give the town some credit for installing these IA septic credit systems. Unfortunately, it has not been well advertised, and I think only 400 or 450 people have taken advantage of it to date. But I think there have been some 900 applicants. But I think we should push for advertising that in a greater extent. And lastly, maybe have a chance to maybe consider looking at septic systems for sales of houses. Redoing septic systems for
When the house changes hands?
exactly.
Okay,
Something to consider.
got it.
That would require some study, though.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Is that in place already? I believe it might be.
I don't think it is.
No, it's not. It's only if they're doing a certain renovation cost.
It's just if they do renovation,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so, Tom, you were first last
Yes,
time,
I
right?
was, yeah.
So Michael, you'll be first this time. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of this. Michael, what is your plan for the coastal erosion hazard area? And what is your plan to address those in need during the inevitable storm flooding?
Well, as I understand, with regards to Montauk, I guess they're awaiting the so-called FIMP project, which is FIMP stands for Fire Island Montauk Point. And I don't know the exact numbers of that, but I believe they're going to be pumping, dredging lots of sand from offshore and bringing it onshore to help the downtown beach area of Montauk near Kirk Beach. I think anything would have been an improvement from those geotubes that were utilized the first time it would go around. And with the geotubes are basically cement structures that I guess it was done a last-ditch effort again, but it was by the Army Corps of Engineers. A better solution, I think, is these so-called living. I forget the exact name. Living resource, where the reefs are more of a living instead of a hard packed structure like geotubes. But I guess I'm glad that finally that the FIM project is going to be taking place this winter. I think we've been waiting some 50 years for it.
Yeah, it's almost as old as I am, that darn thing. Okay, you're just about to go off. Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, Tom?
I think protection like FIM is critical, but I think we also have to be realistic. We're losing, a significant amount of land to coastal erosion. The lifespan of FIMP is estimated at 30 years, and that's based on current erosion, which is likely to increase as sea levels rise. So we have to have a bigger plan than that. We have to be realistic and talk about infrastructure, and we have to talk about movement of critical buildings and businesses, and it has to be done in a fair and open way. Those discussions, need to start now. The clock is ticking with FIMP, because honestly, while I approve of it in its current state to give us time to get done what needs doing, longer term, the idea of continually pumping sand out of the ocean to replenish this beach is questionable. It's a huge economic cost to the taxpayer, and we need to be making better long-term financial decisions for our town, for our kids, for our future. So, we have a master plan to refer to on this, but we need to revisit that sometimes as well, and ensure the critical parts of it come into action.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so Tom, you're first on this one. What are your thoughts on population density in our community? And what is your plan to address the growing needs of a growing public on the small peninsula that is East Hampton?
Okay. It's one of those things, depends how you look at it. Population density out here relative to the rest of the world is tiny. We have 70% parkland, with protected lands. So on that front, it's not big. And, you'd look at it and you think there's room to potentially have some development. I think we counter that with, we all see that the economic driver of our economy is the environment. And protecting that is critical. So decisions that affect population density, have to be taken in such a way that are in harmony with improving the environment, because otherwise you're going to be affecting people's business, which, ties into the growing needs of the public. Look, the cost of living out here has become out of control. We might say that's because of this, that, politics. It's happened. I think it's hard for any of us to explain exactly why, but the concept of my kids or any kids with a local job being able to buy a house out here, it's just not realistic. We need to introduce policies that help the new generation do that.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yeah, with regards to density, I think we're just about maxed out in terms of our available land. This is, I guess, the question that was raised yesterday at the town board meeting, and we're discussing in chapter 255. Many people spoke from the public, young, old, and they all spoke with a sort of a similar voice, one of almost desperation, but of hope. But desperation was basically that their town, that they knew it, that they grew up loving, is evaporating, and they don't want to see that evaporate. So I think in terms of density, basically our infrastructure can't handle any more density. I mean, we already talked about septic. The roads, congestion, and the water quality are all functions of that density. I think the Airbnb situation sort of magnifies that problem or exacerbates that problem. I think the town is trying with their code enforcement to get a hold on that. I think they could do a better job in trying to enforce the rental registry, where individuals are only allowed 2 short-term rentals during a rental season. But overall, I think we're maxed out in terms of density. In terms of affordable housing and the ADUs, I guess we talked about there's some areas that we can probably hypothetically increase density on the existing lands.
Okay, so we're running out of time a little bit. I'm gonna go to, back to one question. I'm gonna give you each 30 seconds on this, or 45 seconds, so, sorry.
No worries.
So, Michael, we'll go to you first.
Sure.
Why this office and why now?
Repeat that?
Why this office and why now?
Oh, boy. Well, I guess I participated quite a bit in the Wayne-Scott CAC meetings. And I felt that Wayne-Scott's particular were dealt sort of a rough hand, a strong hand from the town board. I think they were made lots of promises during the time period of the when the Deepwater Wind was being considered in different landing spots. And I didn't feel like our voices were heard, and I thought there was just sort of not considered in a good light. So I wanted to have a voice. I wanted our town to have a voice, and I am a libertarian at heart, and I believe in our democracy. And I feel like they didn't treat us very well. Just for example, on what?
Okay, sorry.
That was quick.
Close. That's a quick one.
I'm sorry.
That's
No
okay.
worries.
All right, Tom, you're up.
It's one word, it's community. It's what makes living out here worth it for me, honestly. It is hard for everybody, but the feeling you get when you drive down Main Street in winter and you know pretty much everyone you wave, that's what it's about. It's about your friend showing up as EMS when you have a medical emergencies. The community we have out here is everything, and protecting that is why I'm running.
Okay, great. We just made it. All right, guys, you did a great job. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay.
Michael,
All
thank you
right,
very much.
Michael,
Very civil.
So, okay, welcome back. We now have Scott Smith, the Republican candidate for town board, who is going to participate with Tom Flight, and we're going to give Scott a 1-minute opening statement. So, Scott, it's all you.
Thank you for having me. And I would like to introduce myself as Scott W. Smith, and I've been involved in the community for 40 years. I'm a member of the fire department in East Hampton. I have 2 children at the high school. And about, a year ago, I was approached by various people to run for town board. And between my passion for the community and my passion for my fellow friends that I've grown up with, I decided to pursue this full steam ahead. I believe that the direction that the current town board is headed in is not a direction that is near and dear true to my heart of what I think the community should be. I believe there's a lot of things that we can work on to accommodate the members of the community. I feel that we are losing a lot of our members that have been here 3rd, 4th, 5th generation. They're essentially being priced out. I really want to be here for you. I want to be here for the community. And I strongly feel that I just feel that the current town board is working at a snail's pace to address issues. And simple things like 10 years to address the septic wastewater treatment plant in Montauk is too long. We need to move rapidly, and we need to solve our issues, solutions, not litigation. I'm not a fan of litigation.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start with this question. Short-term, we're going to start with you, Scott, I
Yes.
think, and then we'll go to Tom. Everybody gets a chance to answer these. Short-term rentals via Airbnb, VRBO, and other social media sites have had a dramatic impact on the quality of life in residential neighborhoods and economic impacts on the commercial hostelry industry. With no additional infrastructure to support this increased density, what is your plan to reduce or accommodate the pressure this puts on our local resources?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is, I think it is very important for us to realize that we don't have the workforce, the inspectors, the code enforcement to actually do their job diligently and go out and actually find the people that are renting their houses, turning them over on a weekly basis. One of the things I'd like to do is I think we should bring Suffolk County water into the residents of Montauk to cover as many of the areas as we can. And the bottom line is I just think that our code enforcement needs to address all of the illegal rentals that are going on. And obviously with the rental registry, that helps, but we're simply just we're not attacking what we need to find with the rentals.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
I think you can look at this from different aspects. I think, one of the sad things about it is that often we don't know who our neighbors are at this point. One thing that really perturbs me that I would like to investigate as a town is that we have a lot of blind LLCs owning properties, owning businesses out here. Whether we could actually have something in the code that introduces the possibility of having recognized people who are owners of these properties, because, so much of this is being able to about contact people and make that change. In terms of its impact of hotels, people have been renting properties out here a long time. The short-term turnover, yes, I do think it's had some impact on hotels. I know there's discussion as to increasing taxes on Airbnb rentals to address some aspects of that, and I'm bluntly in support of that. I also recognize that these properties are often income sources for people who are trying to live out here. That is their business. And you have to recognize that. I think where it gets dangerous is you have bigger corporations coming and buying up multiple properties, and we have to be very wary of that in this community.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so Tom, I'll start with you on this one. When a commercial activity impinges on residential quality of life, what criteria do you use to determine if the nature of that activity is worth the trade-off?
Okay. So this can cross so many realms. Noise pollution, air pollution, it's pollution. Quality of life, when it's being impacted, is typically done through some form of pollution. It can be light pollution. Where does it become an issue? How many people is it affecting? Truthfully, I think you can look at the airport and, that's a really critical question. How many people are being impacted by the airport noise and the pollution coming from there? When you're talking about mowers, how many people are being on? People are trying to make a living out here, and we have to be supportive of that. It is key. But we really have to be moving to business models where we are minimizing our pollution. The use of, electric blowers, electric mowers, I'm all in favor of. I'm in favor of supporting those businesses. Quality of life is what makes it worth living out here, along with the community. If we're talking about pollution, it has to be regulated. Scott's talked about enforcement. I do think that, we've added a new position as a town to that within this year's budget. I think it's something we should continue to look to do. And I think we need to look for training for our enforcement crews as well to ensure that they know how to handle those complaints effectively.
Okay, thank you. All right.
The effects of commercial activity in the residential neighborhoods, is that
When
essentially?
commercial
or-
activity impinges on residential quality of life, it's quality of life, not so much the neighbor. I mean, it could be any number of things.
Right, so that is obviously that's the fine line of having to have income to be able to do the things that we need to do in the community of cutting lawns, hedges, all of those things. But to affect the quality of life and the residences, it's a fine balance. But a lot of this is enforcement, and I think we need to just figure out what we can do to meet the needs of the residents, because I do agree that the quality of life out here in a lot of ways, and it's part of the reason why I got involved with running for politics, is that there is a quality of life that is slacking, whether it's the water quality or it's the noises of the leaf blowers. I just think that the commercial aspects spilling over into the residential aspect, we need to monitor that.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Scott, you'll be up first on this one. What specific incentives would you recommend to attract more low-impact industries to East Hampton to diversify the economic sector and create more jobs to keep our young people here?
Well, I happen to know that I believe it was yesterday, there were 5 police officers that were essentially offered jobs to work in East Hampton, and they had done all the training and the testing, and then they were offered these jobs. I do know that from what I have experienced talking to the employees of this town, is that the town employees feel that it is a toxic environment. And these 5 police officers had chosen not to take the job due to the conditions that they were given and the salaries that they were given. I am pro small business, and I definitely think that part of the density issues here is that we can capitalize on the density, because there are so many people that live here that can offer so much to the community, which in return would contribute to the taxes and feed back into the cycle, which would give us more opportunity to help the community.
Okay, thank you.
I assume when you're asking about low-impact industries, you're talking environmentally, so I'm going to take it up there.
Yeah.
You know, what can one do to attract industries here, there, anywhere? I mean, what's worked elsewhere? Property tax breaks. Okay, if you could identify businesses that you wish to attract that have low environmental impact to this community, what fields do we want to invest in, and offer property tax breaks to the landlords to mitigate rents. Find ways to partner with them as a town. You know, we know what our needs are here environmentally. We know where there are high impact things happening to our community. What businesses can help us address those? Let's partner with those. Be that through application for grants at a state level, you know, or other town policies that really help us get the businesses we want here. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you know, my kind of blue sky long-term vision for what we should be aiming for is as a center of, you know, environmental tourism. We need business here. We need low impact industries in order for people to be able to live here. But we need to do it in a way that has minimal impact on what is our greatest asset.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tom, you're up first for this one. Multiple studies identify how sea level rise and storm activity will destroy the coastline. What are your proposals to address coastal erosion throughout the town, including the ocean shoreline and the many miles of coastal bay water that impact residential and commercial areas of the community?
I think the first thing to say, and I, you know, Scott, I don't want to put you on the spot when you answer this, but, you know, I believe in climate change. Sea level rise is a real thing. We're seeing it. We're losing 4 feet of land annually to inward erosion, and we're expecting sea level rises fairly significant over the next 30 years. We have FIMP coming in, which is going to put 450,000 cubic units of sand offshore. That will offer some protection, but it's a Band-Aid. We kind of talked about this briefly earlier. You know, it gives us time with which to make bigger changes. How do we deal with it? We have to move critical businesses away from the coastline. We have to implement, you know, nature's best resources, restore our dunes, protect our dunes, put new dunes in. Natural answers are the best answers with this one for me. You know, hard structures are not the way I would like to see this community go. It's very much, again, focused back on what brings us all to this community.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So, Tom, when you imply that, are you implying that I don't believe in global warming?
I just think it's really important that every person who's out there looking to lead the community needs to kind of state their position on it going forward, because I think it's such a critical issue.
So
to us.
renewable resources, wind turbines, all of that, I support that. Global warming is real. We all know it's real. But one thing I'd like to point out that you mentioned was moving the hotels from the coastlines. So the town was offered to buy the downtown hotels in Montauk at fair market value, and the whole job, the deal didn't work out. I am not a fan of Dirtbag Beach in Montauk. I'm sure you aren't either, and I guarantee that every year the taxpayer paying money to pump sand from the ocean onto Dirtbag Beach, it kind of seems like, and to back you up saying that we have to realize that the ocean is rising at 4 feet, right? Why would we be spending money after money after money dumping sand all around Dirtbag Beach? I agree with you, maybe moving the hotels is a good idea, but I think that part of the phase 1 of the wastewater treatment plant being downtown Montauk as opposed to Ditch Plains, I think that's partially to compensate the hotel owners to maybe possibly expand. And I think that doing phase 1 is enabling them to stay there.
May I?
Yes.
Okay. too far. I mean, I don't like the dirt bags particularly, but I also think that we hadn't put them in place, those buildings would have been destroyed. That beach is an economic driver for Montauk. That's why we put the sand there. The wastewater, to answer very quickly, look, if we're going to move these hotels, putting them on old-fashioned, antiquated septic systems is crazy. That's one of the reasons why they need to look at phase one as they do. It's to ensure that economic driver for, East Hampton generally has a future. So that's what the phase one is about there.
Okay. Did you want to make another comment?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, we're gonna go to the next question, and Michael, we'll start with you. Residents.
Scott.
Sorry,
That's
Scott,
okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's
I
okay.
wrote M, and now I'm getting myself mixed up here. Scott, residents are concerned about the increasing deer population. The VPS proposed sterilization as a middle ground to doing nothing versus a baited cull. What do you propose to control the deer population, and do you endorse non-lethal methods?
From the debate in Montauk, in the opening statement, I worked on a cattle ranch for 3 years in Montana. And there's a big difference between a conservationist and a environmentalist. Environmentalists seem to circumvent the natural cycle as a conservationist actually uses the land and manages the land. In the situation that we have here in East Hampton, I support a archery season to help cull the herd. I only know through experience that when you reduce 10% of the herd every year, not only does it generate money, taxpayer money with the revenue of the licensing, it also keeps people outside and it keeps them connected to nature. Very important to me, that humans, residents of East Hampton connect and spend time in nature. Not doing that is going to, it's a boom and bust situation, and then disease will set in, and then you'll have a die-off of 50-60% if we had a bad winter, and it would be a horrible experience to see dying deer suffering all over the place. I think culling the herd is very important to do for many reasons.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with a lot of what my colleague here has said. When you get overpopulation, the animals have to adapt, and that's why they're coming into our gardens. That's why they're going into the roads. This has huge costs to the town as a whole, to the town residents. There is no natural predator. It's extinct, whatever it was. When that population reaches a certain point and they can no longer adapt, they will begin to suffer as a herd. And likely more deaths would happen than if we found ethical ways to manage the population. Ethical ways for me does include hunting, and especially if we can look to use some of that deer meat as food, I think that's a great way forward. Sterilization, I'm a little more hesitant for. I don't really know what the long-term impacts of that might be on the food chain. If we're putting those chemicals out there, it is something I would have to really look into. But, generally speaking, I do believe a more humane way would be hunting to actually deal with that population.
And can I add one thing real quick?
Sure.
And also with the Lyme disease, which affects so many of us out here, we know that too many deer is only going to contribute to that.
Well,
so.
that's my next question.
Oh.
So the warming northern climate supports tick population. This is for Tom first, and then you, Scott. Tick diseases of all sorts, including Lyme disease, babesiosis, or lichiosis, the alpha-gal meat allergy, have been infecting more and more town residents. What do you propose to control the tick disease epidemic in our communities?
Well, deer population, one and done. I think that's definitely an aspect of it. It's a real challenge. It's not as if the tick problem is being contained anywhere. In fact, it's grown. I now hear a lot of my friends and family in the UK talking about Lyme disease and the tick problem because it's spread over there. I think we need to look at this on a much larger macro scale. We have to kind of really get into a better understanding of what is the tick life cycle, what could be the most effective means to helping us manage that population. It may be a result in change of our, park management, how do we deal with undergrowth? Where is it that we're actually seeing the ticks breeding? What time of year is it that we're seeing the ticks breeding? We need to kind of really look at this from a scientific perspective. I think there's a lot of ideas out there, but this is something that we as a town, and actually we need to partner with Stony Brook University, I would recommend to do this, to understand what is the best way for us to address that growing population.
Okay, great, thanks. Scott?
So I do know that the town of North Haven they did a study with a four-corner system where they would put food in essentially a trough, if you will, and they would have fabric on each four of the four corners.
Posters, yeah, the four
Yeah.
poster system.
And the deer would, obviously, for people that don't know what this is, the deer would go in there and eat, and they would rub against the side that was treated with the chemical that would, significantly reduce the ticks on their skin, similar to the front line that you put on your dog. They did the study, they put out, I think 20 of these systems, and the tick population, the reported tick Lyme disease cases had dropped majorly dropped. And I think that the town of East Hampton, I've been to Springs at the dog park, I've talked to people about this, and I think everyone is open arms, 100% let's do it. It definitely worked in North Haven. I don't see why it wouldn't work here. And I think it's a great solution, not to waste time doing research. Let's just address it now. It worked in North Haven. Let's do it now and get the results.
Okay. All right, so the next question is, who did I start with last? I started with Tom last, so
Yeah.
this will be to you. Sorry, I can't, I'm
That's okay.
having trouble keeping track. Do the present regulations governing house size comport with the town's energy policies? And what might be changed to better align these goals?
So the building code, the last time the building code was revised was in 2005. I'd like to point out that thanks to the hard work of Build in Kind, the violations, the size of houses, the pyramid law violations, the clear cutting violations, the lack of bales of hay to prevent dirt runoff into the streams, into the estuaries, brought to the attention to the town board that there's violations all over the place. So now with Article 255-111, they are going to readdress some of these issues. I do think that the house sizes is 100% an issue compared to lot size. And I think making it energy compliant, we already do that with solar, but geothermal loop systems. But I definitely think that is 100% needs to be done just to have less impact on our utilities out here. But very importantly, part of the reason why I am running is because the current town board, in my opinion, doesn't seem to be proactive until their feet are held at the fire. And with Build in Kind doing the work that they did, they held their feet to the fire and brought it to their attention, and now they're acting on it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Tom?
Regulations are such a tricky concept. You hope that people do the right thing. And, unfortunately, there's the old adage that if anything is free, it will be abused. So you have to have regulations. Do our regulations currently conform to energy policies? Bluntly, no. They don't. That is one of the reasons we are, looking to revisit as a town. It's not just energy policies, it's resources as a whole. I think we all saw the articles from New York Post about water usage by some of these properties. It's crazy, it's excessive. We do have to have new policies in place that look to help people manage resources better as we move forward. I don't think it's reactive, I just think it's a sign of change that people have become more, there's been more greed as to what people want, bluntly, and I think we need to update our regulations to ensure that, what is great out here is not abused.
Can I ask Tom a question?
Sure.
Were you at the hearing yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, what did you think?
I thought it was great. We talked about it briefly in the last interview. I thought the civility was fantastic.
Right.
You know, I thought that you saw about 80% of people come out and say, yes, I'm so glad we're revisiting this.
Right.
You know, one of the things I've learned being in politics a while is that you have to listen to the people who kind of were cautious.
So did you sense any frustration in the crowd? That
I think I think you had a sense that people were really concerned. Less frustration, more concerned that, you know, we are seeing environmental degradation and loss of community happen faster than we've ever seen it before. And we need, you know, a new code, which is precisely what the meeting was about.
Okay.
Good, okay. Okay, so the last question, and I'll give you 30 seconds for that, and then we'll give Tom his closing statement, is, and I'll start with you, Scott, is to say something nice about your opponent.
So I met Tom for the first time in Montauk last Sunday at the hearing that we had at the firehouse. I'd like to say he's a fellow fireman in the volunteer fire department out of Montauk, as I am in East Hampton. And we just had a brief talk in the hallway. English, Scottish roots. My family's from Scotland. Tom spent some time in England, and we've actually visited a place in England, the same place, and eaten at the same restaurant many years apart, obviously. So I look forward to the debates and getting to know you better, Tom.
Great,
Yes.
nice, okay, thanks. Oh my gosh, sorry.
No worries.
Okay, Tom,
Likewise, I think being a first responder says a huge amount about people. It's giving up your time to serve your community, and I respect that immensely. I also respect that you're an outdoorsman. I think some of our greatest environmental pioneers have been outdoorsmen, and I think, you know, there's an understanding you get in the environment out there that you don't see elsewhere. And I'm also going to say this, like, I believe in bipartisanship. I have many, many good Republican friends. My parents are conservative politicians. I think a lot of good ideas come from the other side of the aisle. I think it's about partnership. And, you know, I think, you know, the fact that you're actually looking to run shows that you're concerned about this town.
okay, great, got just under the wire, okay. All right, so that's the extent of our questioning at this point, and then we'll just give Tom a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll be done with this segment. And you can stay here.
And do I do a closing after? Or
You'll
no?
do a closing after you and David are done, because David will do opening, and then you'll do
Yeah, so you get
closing.
one closing.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of a
Got it.
mix and match a little bit. Okay, all right, Tom.
Okay, so I didn't introduce myself that well, so I'll repeat some of that quickly now. I'm a fireman, I'm an EMT, I'm a father of 3 kids, I'm a local business owner. I live out here because I love this community. It's what makes living out here worth it. The environment is beautiful, but it's really that feeling of comradeship and friendliness that you get from knowing your neighbors. It's critical that as we move forward as a town, that we protect this community. And that's what I'm here to do. That's what it says on my palm card. I really was very forthright about having that on there. I wish to be in service to our community, to serve you the best I can. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, we finished a little ahead, so that's actually wonderful. Okay, stay tuned. We're going to have our next pairing up. It'll be Scott Smith and David Lease. Thank you. Welcome back. We now have incumbent Councilman David Lease, who is going to be debating now with Republican candidate Scott Smith, and we're going to give David a 1-minute opening statement, and then we'll proceed to the questions. So, David, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much to the VPS. Kathy, thank you so very much for having us. And thank you to the community members that are viewing on the town's partner institution, LTV, for watching and participating in democracy. My name is David Lease. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of East Hampton, and as your council member for the last 6 years. I've consistently demonstrated the ability to bring people together to solve problems. I believe my local knowledge can be used as a resource to aid in the future of the town of East Hampton to the residents. Prior to that, I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 5 years. I was a founding member of Citizens for Access Rights, Paddlers for Humanity, and also the chairman of the Amagansett Life Saving Coast Guard Station Society. I'm a lifelong resident that went to East Hampton High School. My mother and father are both longtime residents here. I'm a proud cancer survivor for 25 years. We run small businesses in town, own commercial property, and I have 4 lovely daughters. It is through my lens of my 4 daughters, my family, and lifelong experience that I do my job. what do they need in the town of East Hampton for their future to make it a vibrant place. I am endorsed by the East Hampton Democratic Committee and Working Families Party. I thank you very much for having me.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we're gonna, we'll start with you first on this question. Please define civility in public discourse.
Civility in public discourse means holding decorum. It means listening to each other. It also means being able to think critically on the fly, but not to interrupt. I think having opposing views is a good point. Having opposing views whenever I was on the zoning board or through the town council makes you actually become smarter in your job, I believe. Because when you become too much that your rule or your way is the highway, you become an autocrat. And we see that too much in government right now. We're too much of a small town right now to not to listen to all, not to listen to others and respect them. Because as I always tell my friends, I'm going to be that same person down with you, either at locations in town, having at the beach, at a restaurant. I still want to be friends with you then too. I learned that through my parents. I learned that through my father, who I believe is one of the kindest people in the world.
Oh, that's very sweet. Okay, Scott.
I believe that government's first duty is to protect the people and not run their lives. And I'm a big advocate of collectively having a community come together with civility. And it is so important to work with the people of the community. One reason why I decided to run for town board is I felt that there was a total disconnect between the current administration and the people in East Hampton. My door will always be open to hear everybody's issues, big, small, and everything. It doesn't matter what the issues are. I'm here for you. I want to work for you. And I want to, most importantly, keep East Hampton the family that it needs to stay that way. And I want to hold on to the Bonneker way of life.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so David, you went first, and now Scott will go first. What is your vision for East Hampton, and how will you support your goals for the community?
My vision of East Hampton is having the residents of East Hampton play a major part in the decision-making of where the direction of the town is. Yesterday, when I attended the 255 Article 1-11, there was a gentleman that spoke and said that we want to be part of the process. That really was near and dear to me, to my heart, because often government tends to do what they think is right for the people, and to have people in the community be part of the process collectively, the outcome is going to be better. I wrote an article recently in the Star letter to the editor saying that my goal as town board is to meet the needs of 90% of the community. Right now, when I walk the streets of East Hampton and talk to people, that is not the feeling I'm getting. I'm feeling a total disconnect from the residents of East Hampton to the government office of the town board.
Okay, thank you. David?
Yes, part of what was just discussed was about a discussion about potential changes to the zoning code, and specifically about process then too. Part of the process is to actually listen to the individuals, and that's why there was a large, broad discussion at Town Hall yesterday, which everyone participated in. And that's part of the town board's desire and goal, to bring in as much outreach and bring as many people to discuss options that they might disagree with. And that's what happened yesterday. So I sort of disagree with that with Scott. Either way, my vision of East Hampton right now is to be just as good as when I grew up out here. I grew up in times it was spectacular to go to the beach, go to the woods, play with friends, and enjoy themselves in a very safe location. What it did also is produce opportunity for individuals to become very successful on there. And success can be deemed and termed in many different ways right now. My vision is through the lens of my kids. That's what I need to do, as I said in my opening, to make sure that they have a town that they can grow up, be successful, and hopefully cherish as much as I did, and see their family grow also.
Can I comment?
Sure.
On the meeting yesterday, I got a little bit of a different feel in the room. I got a feel that without the work of Build in Kind, the town board never would have acted on this. the fact that it takes the town board, a whole community of outrage, building kind, to hold their feet to the fire, to basically be accountable for their actions, and then they act on it. 255 only went in existence because of the 2005 building code was archaic, and the outcry of the community made them wake up to address it. Thank you.
Would you like to rebut, David?
Yeah, chapter 255 being discussed yesterday was about the purposes of zoning on there. And the purposes of zoning should be modernized based on all the studies that the town has done over the last 18 years. So the comprehensive plan, which was adopted in 2005, but first started years ahead of that then too, at that time now has become archaic. So what happens when you see leadership like the Democratic board that we have under Peter Van Scoyk, myself, and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, we decided to move on options that we needed to make sure we modernized our code right now to be effectual and to see what the character of the community want and to make sure what the community members are asking for, that we acted upon them. We are actually employees of the town, and we're listening to our town, and we're being proactive.
Okay. All right, thank you both. This is another question. I'll start with you, David. Contractors parking on the shoulder of the road create congestion and kill roadside plantings all around town, making life very difficult for the neighbors, sometimes for months or years till the construction is completed. What is your solution to this problem?
This is a problem that affects everywhere from Wainscott all the way to Montauk. Unfortunately, just in Wainscott of last year, what we saw is a child being killed because there was a contractor parked in the sight lines, and that child was unfortunately harmed. And this has happened way too often, way too many locations. Unfortunately, what a lot of individuals don't understand is where their bound property is, and that there is a street right-of-way that could be in various distances or widths, sometimes from 50 feet up to 120 feet, depending on what jurisdiction it might be in then too. One of the biggest things I'm looking to legislate and continue and complete the legislation is to make sure that we protect our right-of-ways specifically for the trees right now on there. We want to protect the trees so they don't become clear-cut, and also there's a defined area where the property owners know that they can't touch. Next, it's about staffing correctly. Part of the budget that we did in 2013 was putting in place for a highway supervisor, which means that that individual actually goes out and inspects highway projects. So if it's a curb cut, which everyone has to get a permit for, they were being inspected and make sure they were within compliance for safety.
Okay.
So, David mentioned staffing. What I do know from talking to employees in the town, the largest employer in the town, the staffing is underpaid, just above minimum wage. I just spoke to a gentleman who's been working for the town for 18 years, and he only makes $60,000 a year. That just seems like an outrage to me. Regards to parking on the road, the lack of enforcement, the lack of workers, cannot do their job. Nobody is going out there and telling these people they can't park there, and it's very unfortunate that there's car accidents and the grass gets killed, and also the roots and the trees gets crushed, and then the tree dies. I think the key to this is just strictly having code enforcement, more code enforcement, bringing pride back to the workplace so they actually want to do the job, and then having them issue violations, clear cutting, all of this. This is all being overlooked because we don't have the workforce to do their jobs.
Okay. Are you?
Sure.
Do you want to?
So just a quick comment on that is that the town of East Hampton right now is working with the CACA to make one of the largest increases potentially over a multi-year timeframe to increase the salaries for the working staff at the town of East Hampton. We've done that recently multiple times outside of contract over the last couple of years, because under the leadership, myself and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, we understand there is need to make sure that we have the living wage as high and make it on parity with other townships on there too. As far as code enforcement, right now, within the last two budget cycles, we've only increased the amount of code enforcement exponentially to make sure that our quality of life situations that have to be enforced for compliance have full staff, and completely we are full staffed in that department right now. We look forward to continuing to full staff it.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. Scott, this will be you first. Most people do not realize that affordable housing units built with county, state, or federal funds cannot legally give priority to folks who already live here, much less prioritize high-need local residents in essential positions such as teachers or first responders. How do you propose the town board can gain better control over who actually benefits from affordable housing projects? As sometimes the addition of new affordable housing units can have the undesired effect of increasing the population further. Doesn't help locals who are being priced out.
The locals being priced out. At the last meeting in Montauk, I mentioned the CPF fund being mismanaged, and I wasn't able to elaborate because I ran out of time. The original CPF fund was to buy farmlands and was to buy large tracts of land. I don't think buying quarter-acre lots and locking them in so they can never be developed is helping the residents of East Hampton. I spoke to a lot of people that have said that they either need to move to go see their grandchildren or go visit their children because they simply can't afford to stay here anymore. I think that's horrible. Low-income housing, one huge thing that I think is that when they do low-income housing, they're building on 10 acres, they're building only 40 units or 15 units, or not as many units as they should be building in the given space that they are allowing them to build on. What was the other one was density?
No, it was just about how you can control who, because of the funding, you can't
Right.
always.
I'm in favor of the CPF fund to be, obviously, it's being used for the wastewater to treat with the septic system. And I'm in favor of using some of that money for the housing.
Okay, thank you. Hey, David?
So that's a very good question, Kathy. And it's a very good question that just doesn't affect what the village of East Hampton does, but what the town does. But unfortunately, what I hear right now is an inconsistency to what actually the law is allowed or what the town has actually done. The CPF does have a water quality tax, a percentage of the tax for CPF lands. CPF properties actually can only be used for certain things, and when the town evaluates them, we don't evaluate them to denude property, but we evaluate them to protect open space, agriculture, and also drinking waters then too. Units per property can only be defined by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services unless you do have a septic treatment plant on it. So a lot of this information is actually quite known and out there and stated by the county then too. Let me go directly to what the answer to the question is. There is actually a difference between affordability and affordable housing in the town of East Hampton. One of the best ways we could have done right now to make sure that we have control of affordable housing and who could stay there is by what we just did and pass a referendum on another 0.5% transfer tax. That money, when you don't have to keep the money locally, we might have more chance to keep more local people into our population for the town of East Hampton through our affordable housing programs.
Great, thank you.
Hold on one second. I do see that in 2005 to 2015, 4.6 million went into the septic initiative program. I do think that right now the town board is has roughly $8 million in lawsuit fees. And I think that is a travesty when it's taxpayers' money, when we're only putting 4.6 million into the septic systems and we're spending all this money on lawyer fees. I think that is just a travesty to the taxpayers.
So my response to that is he's conflating the issue there. You can't use actually CPF funds on attorney's fees on there then too.
That's not what I was implying. The taxpayers are paying that.
So what happens is CPF funds cannot be used on attorney fees. And when you have attorney fees, it's primarily because someone is suing you. So as a town board member, should you roll over to when outside interests are coming over to change your town, change your preservation of the town, or you should defend the rights of the town to make sure you continue on what the preservation needs of the town and the character the community wants. And that's what a town board should do, and leadership should also do. But the funding sources are completely different.
Okay. All right, next question. David, this will be you first and then Scott. What is your plan for the coastal erosion hazard area and how will you address those in need during the inevitable flooding?
So CHA, the coastal erosion hazard area, is a defined line that I believe actually needs to be relooked at right now, because just as like some of the town code is, it's become antiquated to what actually sea level rise is right now. The town of East Hampton recently has produced our CARP program, which is the Coastal Assessment Resiliency Planning Policy right now, and is also looking for other grant funding for how to institute that within the Hamlet study, particularly this area in the Hamlet of Montauk right now. Sea level rise is not something that we think is going to happen. It is already happening right now, and so is climate change right now. Using within the studies that we have right now, we have to outreach and work within the communities right now that are vulnerable, low-lying areas to produce a plan right now for adaptation if and when needed right now. We can't wait years. We have to do it now, and the studies that we've been working on, we're at the precipice point to start making those decisions, outreaching with others. But we have to use science right now, not hyperbole. We have to make sure we do what's right for the community because we know they're coming. Right off our shores right now, there is another storm coming, and it's not going to be the last.
Okay, great. Thank you,
This
Scott.
goes back to the availability of building in areas that we know are floodplains and we can't build in these areas. Before, when I was talking to Tom, we talked about the hotel in Dirtbag Beach. We had opportunities to possibly buy the hotels at fair market value to move them off of the primary dune, and instead we're dumping millions and millions of dollars every year replenishing the beaches with sand with taxpayer money. I think it's very important that we do not allow building in areas that are obviously inevitably going to be flooded out. And the government grants of the Army Corps of Engineers, obviously the other day announced that they are coming back to help us out. But to me, these are short-term problems. We just need to stop the building in areas where flooding is happening and use all the grants from the government as we can.
So my response to that is, what's the plan then that's being produced there? Yes, the FINT project, which is the Fire Island, the Montauk project, has been out there for 60 years. We advocated extremely hard as a town board recently to make sure we got prioritized in line with that. Working with other community partners, the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, concerned citizens of Montauk, we advocate the federal government for that funding for this short-term project, being 30 years, a protection of one of our most vital areas of Montauk and our economic drivers. But using the Hamlet studies and those plans is where we now have to start developing where we might be able to transfer those development rights into areas that are not flood prone, that are resilient right now for our coastal resiliency. We have a plan. My slate has a plan. I haven't heard that from the others.
Okay. Thank you.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I'm sorry.
It is. We might not
Like-
get to all the questions, but that's
Okay,
okay.
so part of the plans that to me, taking 10 years to talk about a wastewater treatment plan in Montauk, 10 years, we're talking about density in the community, and we're talking about 10 years to actually come up with solutions, 10 years to come with an idea to do the wastewater treatment plant phase 1, and another 10 years to build it. Cell towers taking years. So you're talking about all these plans, but I don't see the action. Obviously, with the wastewater treatment plant, we're still not moving forward to any of this. And it's like plans, kicking the can down the road. Solutions, not litigation.
David, did you want
Sorry.
to respond?
No, it's okay. I understand.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Scott, we'll go to you first on this. We're sort of running out of time here. What are your thoughts on population density in our community? And what is your plan to address the growing needs of a growing public on the small peninsula that is East Hampton?
So with density comes opportunity. I believe I'm pro business, and I believe that with density comes a lot of high paying jobs. I do think that you have to plan for density. As I just mentioned, 10 years to figure out a wastewater treatment plant, 3 years for the cell tower. That is not planning for density. 6 highway department employees to plow thousands of roads when we have 32 plow trucks. That's not being prepared for the density of the community. I honestly, I think that there needs to, we have to deal with the traffic. I would propose putting in a rotary in the Wainscott stoplight, which is a huge problem with the density of the trade parade. I would also like to propose go to Long Island Railroad and try to figure out scheduling where they could have more trains coming out in the morning and more trains going westbound in the evening. And I've worked on many job sites, talked to a lot of these workers, and they've all said they would do that in 2 seconds. They would love to be able to sit on the train and then do their billing, and they would love to get home and have dinner.
Okay.
The one issue they had is if they could leave their cars here in a safe location. And that's what I propose to try to
Okay.
curb the
Thank you.
density. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, David.
So I agree with Scott there. It's one of the biggest things about our infrastructure right now is not there. We are from 375 years old as a community right now, and we are still on horse and carriage streets right now. Part of the LIRR right now we've been advocating for is the final mile right now and commuter trains. We were successful under our current administration in doing so. But part of the problem that we can't do right now is we don't have sidings. There's going to be millions of dollars the MTA needs to spend in the local area to be able to get more consistent trains. That's been a known. That's been a known for a long time, not just during a debate here. There's not thousands of roads. There's actually only 300 miles of roads. And we do have staffing, or always are looking for staffing. Please contact the town if you're interested. As far as controlling density right now, what you want to make sure is that this has been a place where individuals have always come out to. We need to prepare for numbers. You prepare through having ample and perfect and good zoning codes right now that are prepared to be able to make sure you control density by controlling the quality of life. Let's see what our character, our communities are. Also about controlling density right now is providing for the density. We have actually installed 3 macro towers recently, and actually as far as septic systems on there, we have money for septic grants too.
Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna have time for only one more question, which is fine. David, I'll start with you on this.
Okay.
How will you ensure that we have clean, safe drinking water? How will you ensure that our surface water bodies, so essential to our fisheries and way of life here, are safe and can thrive?
How do you ensure that is you plan for the future, but you also act in the moment right now then too. The town of East Hampton actually is looking at different slivers, different ways. There is subsurface drinking waters. There's also bodies of waters. You need to protect them in different ways, but you need to treat all of them the same. What you have to do right now is find funding sources. The town advocated for the CPF water quality tax, 20% out of what the CPF transfer tax is for water quality projects, which includes updated septic systems, both in residential and then also both in commercial. You see now bioswales. You see a lot in the village right now then too, particularly the one on the Methodist Lane bioswale, done by a partner of the Surfrider Foundation. All there are ways you can start to protect it is by making sure you work with what your MS4 plan, and you look at your stormwater discharges. Right now, the largest clam contest is off this weekend, or the weekend that we were filming this right now, because of too much runoff, because of climate change right now. There's many different actions that we can take, from growing kelp, to doing aquaculture, to building infrastructure that protects our drinking water.
Okay.
So I think the first thing with public water and the quality of the water is very important would be to bring Suffolk County water to Montauk. I do know that at the last debate in Sunday, we talked about phase 1 through 4. Lake Montauk being extremely polluted, especially from ditch plains. 100% we need to address the septic systems out there. I believe personally that the community, the residents of Ditch Plains should be phase 1. I think that we need to, it's also concerning that at Girard Drive, there's signs that say there's flesh-eating bacteria. We need to reduce the pesticides, and I think it's very important that we enforce the straw bales along the job sites, because the runoff from all of the chemicals and the dirt that goes into the estuaries is contributing to horrible water quality. Clear cutting of the lands. Again, you know, it's enforcement. We need to enforce the laws here. We need to enforce the rules to protect the bodies of water. And right now, it's not happening. And why are we dealing with such polluted water in Lake Montauk, Fort Pond, and 3 Mile Harbor?
Okay, great.
So just a quick one on that. Suffolk County Water has actually been out of Montauk for a long time. I think he's talking about a wastewater system on there.
No.
Suffolk County
A
Water.
lot of the residents don't have town
Suffolk County
water.
Water Authority is actually in Montauk. There's multiple wells even out there, and they brought the Suffolk County Water out a long time ago to make sure there's enough pressurization, because the fire departments wanted it too.
Okay.
So that's incorrect on there. But I do agree a lot with what Scott said about the protection and enforcement of zoning codes needs to be done to make sure we protect our waters. That's something where Scott and I definitely do agree with.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, well, believe it or not, our time is up for this segment, so I'm going to give you a minute to make your closing statement, if you would.
So I am Scott Smith. I'm running for town board on November 7th, and I would like your vote. I need your vote. As mentioned, I have children in the community. I've been here for 40 years, and I was decided to run for town board because I just felt that the community, the town, the life that the town has always given me is going in the wrong direction. So I personally think that the current administration, with the 10 lawsuits that they're going through, the airport that David isn't even able to talk about because he's currently in a lawsuit on it. I think the cell tower situation, I think the speed in which the town board is moving is not forward thinking. I am a forward thinker, and I work on job sites, and if you can't be able to work with the people and put everyone together and work together, then the job's not going to get done in a timely fashion. It just doesn't take 10 years to talk about something with no results. I want to bring back pride to the workforce for the employees of East Hampton. I've spoken to a lot of them, and they are not happy. And again, underpaid, overstaffed, overworked. So I'm Scott Smith, and I would like your vote, and I look forward to serving you. I am here for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, stick around. We've got one more pairing. We're going to have Michael Wootton come in
Take care.
and talk with David. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to the last of our pairings with the Democratic and Republican candidates. I have Incumbent Councilman David Lease and Republican challenger Michael Wootton. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Better. Good, thanks. We'll have a second set of questions, and then each of them will give a closing statement at the end. Okay, so the first question, I'm going to start with David. Short-term rentals via Airbnb, VRBO, and other social media sites have had a dramatic impact on quality of life in residential neighborhoods and economic impacts on the commercial hostelry industry. With no additional infrastructure to support the increased density, what is your plan to reduce or accommodate this pressure, the pressure this puts on our local resources?
Very good question, and it really does affect the community right now, not just within our business districts, but also within our residential areas. The town code actually does allow for short-term rentals, but there's too many individuals right now that are property owners that are taking advantage of that and using commercial operations in a residential zone. Part of that, what we have to do right now is be able to continue our surveillance efforts on these locations. Sometimes that might seem like it's pretty easy by seeing the constant turnover, but also surveilling them onto the websites. Next one is to make sure if you want to actually enforce it, you have to get to adjudication of it. One way that we're looking, the town council right now is looking how to adjudicate this is to be able to subpoena records for Airbnb records and to be able to adjudicate in present time instead of playing the game of waiting months out before you're actually trying to get someone sent to court right now and fined, scheduled to be able to stop their Airbnb use. This affects not just the character of the communities that these houses are in, but it also affects the brick and mortar individuals, places that have hotels and other motel operations legally.
Okay, Michael.
Yes, hi. The Airbnb situation is a problem. It does put pressure on everything, including our restaurants, our traffic, and everything else. One thing I think we could do better is enforce the rental registry. I do believe you're allowed 2 short-term rentals per year, per summer, and I think that the town could do a better job, or the town enforcement could do a better job enforcing those rules. I think very simply, you could just, on the Airbnb, for instance, when people give reviews, you can see that the reviews were made August 7th, August 9th, August 16th. And you can see that the people are not abiding by those rules by virtue of the fact that people are leaving reviews online. And that can be done very easily to check by code enforcement. So that'd be one way to try to bring that in, if pushed by enforcing the existing rules for the rental registry. I think a second way, I think you guys are trying to do that is to collect the Suffolk County hotel tax. And that would make it less affordable.
You could finish your sentence.
That would make it less affordable for people to rent Airbnbs, as well as it might be a discouraging for people to host rental Airbnb guests.
Okay.
So just my quick question, response to that also is that the town of East Hampton did put in a rental registry under the administration prior to mine on there, and it has been successful in adjudicating. You just can't look at reviews to adjudicate. That's not going to work in the court of law. Mike is correct, as the town board is currently doing. We need to subpoena records to adjudicate response on there then too. Also, the code section that he stated is incorrect. It is actually not 2 short-term rentals in a summer. It's actually in 6 months period. So that's a difference in knowledge of the law.
Okay. All right, next question, we'll start with, I forget who I started with. I started with you last time, right, David?
No.
No.
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
okay. All right, so I'm gonna start with Scott on this one.
Michael.
Sorry, Michael. Oh my gosh, I called Scott Michael before too. Sorry. Okay, when a commercial activity impinges on residential quality of life, what criteria do you use to determine if the nature of that activity is worth the trade-off?
Do you have any commercial activities in mind specifically?
No, but if you could just think of, I mean,
Well, I guess I can think about, one area that seems like it's brought up a lot of controversy is the airport, whether or not we want to keep the airport open. I guess the commercial activities I think we're talking about is probably people flying to East Hampton via either air or helicopter. So I guess the question is, and it seems like it's a hot topic around here, is a big question of closing the airport. I am for keeping the airport open because I do believe it's an economic driver for our town. I do have a report that is made by an international consulting firm by the name of EBB, and they determined that there's 872 jobs as a result of the airport being active, and has a direct impact on our economy of over, I think, $78 million. But I think that the airport could operate with, right now they're operating under what I call a pilot's pledge, and I say that they're operating under voluntary curfews, and that would include both commercial as well as private operations.
okay. Well, this wasn't a question about the airport specifically, but it's commercial activity of
Sure.
any kind
So
that
the
impinges on quality of
The
life.
question, I believe, comes to the amount of conflict. Our town is over 375 years old this year right now, and it wasn't laid out as a formatted city, if you want to say. What happens, there is a lot of conflict that can become when you have residential and commercial locations, meeting property lines or sharing property borders right now. There is a pressure from the commercial activities to the quaintness that some individuals want to continue on their residential properties. You see that in all the hamlets, anywhere from Wainscott all the way to Montauk right now. There are sections of the town code that actually discuss this and actually has those as triggers in the code that you can't actually be as intense on a commercial property when it does line up next to a residential property. That means you got to work within what the zoning code is right now. You need to be able to work with both the business and both the residences right now to be able to make sure that we can live harmonious. The code has been looking at that. We will probably start looking at that again in the code upcoming right now. But there are ways that we can be successful at both in East Hampton. We've been doing it for 375 years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so David, I'm going to start with you on this one. What specific incentives would you recommend to attract more low-impact industries to East Hampton to diversify the economic sector and create more jobs to keep our young people here?
That's a very intriguing question and one that I actually enjoy, but since I do have 4 young children, one being a senior and my fourth actually being a first grader, so it's through their lens that I see what East Hampton needs right now then too, and I know we all have children out here too. We need to be actually vibrant and supportive right now. Back in when the initial codes were made, we talked about agrarian and fisheries. They're still vibrant on there then too, but we can look at using other forms of infrastructure right now to be able to allow for high-paying net worth jobs within the borders of the township. No one's ever said that cannot happen. We can use anything from architects to textiles to restaurants in the town of East Hampton, but we need to have infrastructure base to do so. How we do that goes back to some of our previous discussions about how do we allow individuals to come to the town. We need to increase our rail systems. We need to work with the state and the MTA. We need to make sure we have greater broadband and capacity through our cellular systems on there, which the town is really working hard at right now. We also need to make sure that we work within our fiber optics right now to be able to take the mass of the broadband to be able to allow for people to have well-paying, high-tech jobs also.
Okay, great, thank you. Michael?
Yes, as you know, I'm a finance person, and one of the cardinal rules of finance is diversification. And the problem with our economy here in East Hampton is we do not have a diversified economy. Our economy is primarily a function of one thing only, and that's real estate development and tourism. So how do we diversify our economy away from real estate development and tourism? One way to do it is to invest in infrastructure. And then You bring up the cell phone towers. Well, we need cell phone service that works year-round, also in all our villages, including the Springs. And not just in the summertime, the bandwidth just slows down. You can't get a call through. We need to invest in our roads. We need to invest, and also we need to keep our airport open. These are our investments we need to make sure that our economy is diversified. The airport is one area where it is a diversified part of the economy. Young people could actually learn how to fly and embark in careers in aeronautics, not only as pilots, but also as aeronautics mechanics. So to close that down would be a mistake, and it would be doing the opposite and not diversifying our economy.
Okay. Just for the record, that wasn't a question about the airport, so.
It's a question about investment in infrastructure
Yeah.
and diversifying our economy.
It was a question about diversifying the economy. Okay, so I think this is yours first now, David, because Michael just went first. Multiple studies identify how sea level rise and storm activity will
I
destroy
think it's
the.
his, actually, because you just finished off yours.
Oh, you are correct, thank you. I'm really getting, I can
Doing
tell
great.
this is number 4. Michael, this is yours first. Multiple studies identify how sea level rise and storm activity will destroy the coastline. What are your proposals to address coastal erosion throughout the town, including the ocean shoreline and the many miles of coastal bay water that impact many residential and commercial areas of the community?
Yeah, I am by no means by training an oceanographer, but I do, I guess, support the first step we were doing is with the FIM program, the Fire Island Montauk Port program, where they are going to dredge up and bring sand onto the beach. It was successful in Sagaponack and Wainscott areas where I think it was done in 2014. And I guess that in that instance, it was done with private money. But however, in Montauk, it's going to be with public money. It is I could say a dynamic process that we have to watch and take care of. The coastal resilience plan that the town has embarked on, I think, is a sound one, and I give them more high marks for that, actually.
Great, thank you. David?
Yes, so the town of East Hampton has 71 miles of coastline, and those are oceanfront shores that also back bays then too. And surprisingly, during the hurricane of '38, the most flooding actually did not come from the ocean; it came from the back bay, which inundated inundated Fort Pond on there, and then the village of Montauk actually had to adapt. Mike is correct. The town of East Hampton has embarked on many coastal studies right now that we are looking to implement immediately then to move forward to make sure that we are not as a reactionary community, but we are a proactive community. We have been fortunate to actually continue to lobby under the leadership of the current town board right now for the Fire Island to Montauk project, which is a 30-year project, and it sounds long, but in the lifetime of some individuals right now, it's going to be very short and in a way only temporary in nature. We got to continue with our CART program, the Coastal Assessment Resiliency Program, and also work with our partners, Concerned Citizens of Montauk, the Village of East Hampton, because we have to learn that there is no feeder beach for East Hampton. No one's bringing us sand. We need to make sure we protect it in the right way and allow other individuals to transfer their development rights appropriately.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. David, this one will start with you. Residents are concerned about the increasing deer population. The VPS proposed sterilization as a middle ground to doing nothing versus a baited cull. What do you propose to control the deer population, and do you endorse non-lethal methods?
Thank you very much. So as a liaison to the Wildlife Advisory Committee for a while, then also for the Nature Preserve Committee, we actually discussed this extensively then too. Last time there was a proposed cull here, then too, what happened is actually there was outrage between multiple sides and conflict on there. I do support actually the non-lethal means any way we can do. It goes back to the 2009 study that the town has for deer management. There are other means that we can do this not effectively, but without actually toxifying our aquifer, which actually happens sometimes with non-lethal means. But one of the ways that we were challenged to do is make sure that we study what deer do and deer habitat. If you look on set in Shelter Island on Mashonack Preserve, they have what's called deer exclosures. and you can see where the fauna has grown inside the enclosure and outside. And it dispels individuals' concerns that the deer don't necessarily just affect human interaction, but they also affect what happens to our fauna and to our woodlands. I, under myself, advocated and was able to do the same exact thing in Northwest Woods. So we will continue to study, look at all means to make sure we can collectively try to control our deer population.
Thank you. Okay, Michael?
Sure. Yeah, this is a good topic that we wanted to discuss. We were all invited for the East Hampton Sportsmen's Alliance, and unfortunately, my Democratic opponents decided not to attend. But it appears that the non-lethal methodologies to trying to cull the deer hold is not working. So I think we should probably increase the opportunity for hunters to cull the herd, and where that would prevent not only human deaths, but also improve the strength of the herd. I've been to Mashamak, and I've seen that the before and after when as David mentioned, how the deer do affect the fauna. So it is very, very important for us to cull the herd and bring those numbers down to a healthy number where they can sustain their own lives and also save human lives.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so this will be Michael first and David second. Okay, do the present regulations governing house size comport with the town's energy policies? And what might be changed to better align these goals?
Yeah, the house size is out of control. I mean, I guess this is basically what was mainly the subject of the meeting we had, I didn't mean me, the town board had yesterday, discussing chapter 255 of the zoning code, where the chapter 255 of the zoning code did not align with the goals as set forth from the 2005 comprehensive plan. I believe that's our first good step, but the houses are getting bigger and bigger, and they max out, and our development seems like it's almost at the maximum. I think the meeting was a good first step, but hopefully it's not too late. These houses get bigger and bigger, and they impact obviously everything, the water, and of course the clear-cutted land hurts the water as well. So these are issues that we need to take care of, and I believe that if it wasn't for the efforts of Jane Meering, that meeting last night would have not taken place. I suppose better late than never.
Could finish your sentence.
But this is a first step in making sure that our zoning aligns more properly with the comprehensive plan, which sets out the framework for our vision, or the East Hampton residents' vision of what East Hampton would look like in the future.
Okay.
Under the leadership of the current town board, there's been multiple initiatives right now moving forward to make sure that houses actually are more environmentally sensitive right now. Yes, there's mentions that have been recently of chapter 255, and let's talk about house size and also clearing. But one of the ways you can use technology to better the energy efficiency of the house, the HERS rating, the home energy rating system on there, or the New York State stretch code, which we just talked about and are moving to public hearing right now, are all in ways in which we can make sure that, yes, you can have a beautiful house inside and outside, but the superstructure of the house has to be as energy efficient as possible and not to put that much of a carbon footprint within the community right now. These are initiatives the town board has been moving on effectively. What you have to make sure within that is to make sure that these changes are fair and balanced, and not actually to a point where they actually put burden on the new homeowner, and particularly the new homeowner that might be a first homeowner out here then too.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so David, we'll start with you on this one. The warming northern climate supports tick populations. Tick diseases of all sorts, including Lyme disease, babesiosis, ehrlichiosis, and the alpha-gal meat allergy, have been infecting more and more town residents. What do you propose to control the tick disease epidemic in our communities?
Well, as I sit here and try not to itch my chiggers on my leg right now, which is, we never had that 40 years ago, right, Mike? We never had it. You'd be able to used to play in the woods. Individuals don't want to do that, allow their kids, because there is so much negativity to being in the woods because of the fear of ticks right now. It goes back into what we were just discussing, is about controlling where the hosts are for ticks, and a lot of times of that might actually be for deer or other animals that could be out there then too. I support all the activities that Zach Cohen used to have as one of the leaders on the Suffolk County tick programs, working with Bridget Fleming, in which we're studying and now putting financial means into it for tick drags, finding out lethal means to control the tick population, but without doing it in a way that damages our environment by putting toxins out there. I also think awareness to individuals and to families that yes, you can enjoy the outdoors, but please take these precautions on there right now.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, precautions is always a good strategy. I know many of my friends who are mountain bike enthusiasts will not go mountain biking in the summertime just because of the deer problem. I guess we talked earlier about the idea of the host animals, and I guess that primarily being the deer. So I think culling the deer, as we discussed earlier, would certainly help that problem. I like David, or also would not like to see us using pesticides and to harm our environment. So again, maybe taking advantage of the culling would limit the herd and hopefully help the Lyme situation.
Okay, great, thank you. Oops, here. I want that to go off now. Okay, I have one more question here that you haven't both answered. We're going fast on this one. The last one, I didn't get through all the questions. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to say something nice about your opponent.
I don't know. This is probably the first time I've met David face to face. But I do know that my sister also happens to live in Wainscott as I do, and my sister I know has met David on multiple occasions and speaks very highly of him. And I know that my sister's one of her close friends, the Darrells, are also close friends of David. So I've heard nothing but good things about David, and I've had a good experience here today.
Okay, well, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for that.
Those are
Okay.
very kind
Okay.
words, and I think this is a great question to end on. What Michael and I are embarking on right now is passion to help our town. We can agree to disagree, but in a good way of decorum right now, and this is exactly what this is. It's democracy right now, so I thank you as you're watching there then too. Myself, just like Michael and Scott, and then also Tom, we are active participants in your community. We want to protect your community, so for that, kudos. No matter how this ends up, there's a lot of respect that gets built up for anyone that wants to put the effort in to be in this role right now. Michael's very active all around, and one of the best things, as I've just got to know Michael also then too, and she'll stay nameless, is his niece is an absolute delight and a star in the community. And I'm not going to say your name, but I'll look at you right there, just from that right there, not knowing Mike, but knowing his niece means I have respect for you, Mike, in that way, because she is a shining star for the Bonnick.
Thanks for that compliment. I'll share that with my niece.
Okay,
She's coming home this weekend.
okay. All right, so now we're gonna do closing statements. So I'll let you go first, Michael.
Um,
Do you need a minute?
Sure.
Or like a second? We have a
Sure.
full minute.
Move this out of your way.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
All right.
Okay.
Right? Oh, thank you for hosting this debate and giving us the opportunity to talk about some of the important issues facing our community. I believe the current town board has failed to serve the needs of its residents. It's failed to serve the critical needs of the Springs with a cell phone tower, still not operational after 10 years' time. It's failed our seniors. The current senior citizen center is decrepit, yet to be completed. And what about all the money spent on those various legal entanglements? The Truck Beach fiasco, the drama surrounding the Maidstone Gun Club, and of course the East Hampton Airport. The legal fees are staggering in the millions of dollars, and of course the meter is still running. Instead of supporting local business, they hassle owners with color choice and get upset about people dancing after dinner in Montauk. And what about spending $4 million of taxpayer money for a convoluted land swap in Hither Hills? No secret review, no public support, and no real supporting evidence that the septic plan will even help the problem in Montauk. If you're happy with the status quo and the current one-party regime, then keep them in power. If not, then vote for new thinking and change. Please vote for me, Michael Wootton, for East Hampton Town Council. More information can be found on my website, wootenforeh.com. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, David?
Again, I want to thank the Village Preservation Society and our partner LTV for putting this on. Thank you, Kathy, also
Sure
for
thing.
moderating.
Our pleasure.
As a lifelong resident of the town of East Hampton, as your council member, I've consistently demonstrated the ability to bring people together to solve problems and complete recreational infrastructure projects. The current town board has completed the Montauk Skate Park, the Little League ball fields, affordable housing projects, numerous ones, and also a lot of infrastructure projects that you see on 114. I believe my local knowledge is a resource to be used and to allow East Hampton to succeed in the years ahead, and I look forward to continuing to do so. I look forward to engaging the residents in the years ahead to build the community that the next generation sees as a beautiful one, and it's just as beautiful as the one that I grew up in. I am endorsed by the East Hampton Town Democratic Committee and the Working Families Party and can be found in row A on the ballot. My name is David Leese, and I respectfully ask you for your support on November 7th, or as early voting begins on October 28th.
Okay, great. Wow, that was under a minute. I can't get, I'm so glad that didn't go off again, that goofy ring. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Councilman Leese, and thank you very much, Mr. Wootton. It was so great to meet you, and thank you. This worked out really well. This is the end of our town board candidates conversations. The Village Preservation Society thanks you for tuning in. And I urge you to go to the polls and vote on November 7th. As my dad would say, if you don't vote, you lose your right to complain. Thank you very much.